How good did that feel? The Twins got off to a perfect start Monday in their big series against the Guardians at Progressive Jake Field. They wasted no time in jumping on right-hander Gavin Williams, who didn't know it hit him from the moment Edouard Julien jumped on the first pitch for a leadoff homer. Meanwhile, Bailey Ober, an even larger pitcher than Williams, gave the Guardians no opportunity to mount a comeback. Can the rest of the series go like this? Maybe yes, maybe no, but definitely get Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Locked On Twins, your daily go-to source for the top Minnesota Twins insight, discourse, and analysis. I'm on the side of the road right now where the Guardians were left last night by the Twins. I'm Dave Brown, an MLB writer who told the Twins to get Gavin Williams into long counts, and they did just the opposite and pounded him anyway. So way not to listen. I'm also a BBWA member and a Hall of Fame voter. Across the great plains of cyberspace is Brandon Warren, who probably has advice of his own today about how to beat the Guardians that the Twins can ignore. Brandon was a Twins fan who became a Twins writer, and now he's both. You can't find us at Puckett's Pond anymore, but there's always Access Twins and Zone coverage. On the podcast today, the Twins got off to an ideal start against the Guardians with an 11-1 thrashing in their series opener at Progressive Field. The Twins continue to progress, get it toward a better record, having won their fourth straight game. They're 13-16 overall, 5 games behind Detroit in the AL Central, and just 2.5 behind Cleveland. The Twins are also +8 in run differential, so we're getting into the important stats now. Everything is coming up Millhouse. The Guardians' pitching has been beaten around lately, and they resorted for a second straight game to using a position player, this one named Will Wilson. I think they actually just made him up in the computer, to pitch the final 2 innings against the Twins. As Hawk Harrelson used to say, "Don't stop now, boys." Nick Paparesta emerged from the athletic training room, saw Luke Keeshaw's x-rays on the wall, and said he'll need 2 more months without baseball before he could play again. But before we tell you all about that, know this. This episode is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV, Fire Stick 4K. Turn any TV into your Xbox. No console needed. That sounds neat. Head over to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more. Brandon, as I said, I'm on the side of the road here where the Guardians were left last night, and that's what they deserve. After an 11-1 thrashing, which they didn't even bother using pitchers to finish the game. For the second straight game. I think the Twins have caught them at a good time, but more important than how the Guardians are feeling, because who cares? The Twins came in the right mood yesterday. They came focused. They were ready to pounce on Gavin Williams, who has been hard on them at times in other starts, and just got everything off to a good start. It's exactly what they needed. And finally, they got exactly what they needed.
Edouard Julien homering on the first pitch. He was the first Twin to homer on the first pitch the Twins saw in a game since Edouard Julien on September 27th, 2023 against Oakland. Now, that was at home. If you want to talk about the first pitch of any game, as in the Twins doing it on the road against, sorry, you know what? I don't have that. I have the last Twin to homer on the first pitch of a game against Cleveland, which was Brian Dozier on August 30th, 2016. So it's not exactly uncharted territory, but boy, I tell you what, you can't watch a baseball game. It's kind of like a season. What was the turning point? When did things start going in your favor? You look back at this game on Monday, and obviously Edouard Julien homering on the first pitch is that moment. But you need the benefit of hindsight to know that for sure. But how nice was it for the Twins, wire to wire, to take care of business in this one? Ryan Jeffers gets his first homer. It's off a position player all the same, but they still count. A lot of things really going in the Twins' favor, even some of the, not to diminish their utility, but even guys like Mickey Gasper having a big offensive game. Cody Clemens getting in on that. Again, also against a position player. Will Wilson sounds like back when I used to play MLB 99 and I'd be too eager to create a player and I'd just take the first thing that came up. Andy Anderson or Will Wilson or John Johnson or I don't know. Anyway.
Somebody who doesn't representing like a player that didn't sign off on the union for getting in the game, having their name used. We got to use this guy's name, Will Wilson.
John Dowd. We all know who John Dowd was.
Yes.
But it's good. It's a good spot to be, obviously, winning 6 of your last 7. Twins now within 3 of 500 for the first time since they fell to 3-6 after losing to the Astros at Target Field about 3 weeks ago. So I don't know. Like, I had in my mind how long I thought it would take the Twins to get back to 500, and I assumed that they would. But this is still a little fast for that whole process.
Well, I mean, maybe they will oblige and do some regression for you, just because we've sort of been caught before. Now, this is a 4-game winning streak for the Twins. This is an actual, 3 games. It's not a streak until you're at 3. Well, now you're really into a streak because it's 4, and it's the first one. I don't know. I know their first 3-game winning streak was in the middle of August. I'm not sure. I didn't even bother looking up the last time they won 4 games because I don't remember. I don't even think it's relevant. But I think my favorite moment, though, was right after the home run. The look on Gavin Williams' face, like, this is not typical Guardians Twins when we went 10-3 against them last year. What was that? Who hit that home run? I don't know this Frenchman. It was he was very gobsmacked and clobber smacked by the home run by Julian, and it was, I don't know. I think I'm hanging out too much with you people, and by that I mean Twins fans, because I got into it yesterday from a juice standpoint. I'm like, this is fun. There haven't been too many of these games this year. It's 2 games in a row now. I said they needed some kind of real blowout type thing against the Angels where they didn't need the bullpen at the end, and there wasn't a lot of tension and stress, and they got that. And now they go to Cleveland, and there's a reckoning. The Guardians, I mean, if they were kind of sleepy before, they know that they're going to have to do better than their position players to handle this Twins juggernaut. But they'll probably win tonight. So
I had a friend back in high school who had a saying, and I'm going to use it because it's how the Twins played. And he said, "Take her easy, and if she's too easy, take her twice." And that's what the Twins did in the last 2 games.
PG-13 saying, Brandon.
Well, again, keep in mind this was high school up in northern Minnesota in the early 2000s, so not exactly the most maybe profound thinkers residing up there. But 2 straight games of really getting that run differential back in the positive direction is certainly good. I think their Pythagorean record, if you want to invoke the memory of Pythagoras, a good friend of mine, 15-14. So they've scored 8, I believe it's 8 more runs than they've allowed now. And, in general, things just looking like they're moving in the right direction. Certainly the rest of this series is going to be a challenge. Tanner Bibee, not very good to start the season, but not many strikeouts, a lot of walks, a lot of homers. In theory, it would look like the kind of game where the Twins could continue what they've been doing, which tends to lead to a 3-1 game or something like that. Baseball likes to have jokes like that, but we'll see how that goes. I think expecting another 10-run outburst might be a little too greedy, but like we say when the winds are swirling, there's a watch in effect for runs again in Cleveland. We'll see if we can turn it into a warning.
I think we've sort of been conditioned into expecting the worst, or expecting at least not the best from the Twins that they can possibly give. But I think they've got the Guardians on the run here a little bit. And it's when you see a team having to bring in fake name Will Wilson to pitch the last game or the last couple innings of a game.
Will Wilson is someone who pitched earlier in the game but put a mustache on. That's what the bit should be.
He did. Did he put Mickey Gasper's mustache on? You should not let the other team borrow your mustache.
Well, he's Mickey Gasper, but he's shaved. That's the thing.
See, he can't even call himself Willie Wilson because everybody knows who that is. He played for the Royals, and he doesn't look anything like Willie Wilson. So it's like, buddy, come up with a better name. Do you think Will Wilson is going to come into the game tonight and have a different name? And what do you think that name is?
No, I think he's down for tonight, and I think Austin Hedges was down last night. Oh, you mean hit, like position play?
Yeah, right.
Maybe. He's going to borrow Bobby Valentine's disguise from the Mets back in 2000. What was it, 2002 or something like that?
Do you think they chopped off Bobby Valentine's whole mustache like a Locks of Love sort of thing, so they could put it in the Hall of Fame and have it on display? That's what I would have done.
I know MLB authentication has gotten more and more stringent and good at what it does in the last few years. I don't know if they were quite on that level yet. So
Well,
maybe
if he is using Bobby Valentine's mustache and they did authenticate it, we'll know it because of the little hologram. It will reflect the light, and we'll be able to see that on camera. So look for that tonight on your 4K. But look for this commercial right now. We're going to take a break and come back and talk more about the Twins because it's our favorite thing to do.
Well, if you're looking for a healthy snack, one that is delicious and nutritious, crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6. That's right, 6. Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the ones that are in the shell. Take a little longer to eat, but slows you down, really lets you enjoy your pistachio experience. If you want to be willy-nilly firing those things down, Pistachios, Wonderful Pistachios has ones that are already shelled for you. They're delicious, nutritious, and exquisite, and they're a lot faster. So if you're one of those people that's trying to run through their snack, that's the way to go. But they're great for on-the-go snacking, or even if you're sitting at your desk like I am and you want to snack on something but not really think too much about it, and you're not feeling like firing down a bunch of high-calorie chips or something terrible for you, gotta go with the pistachio. Get snacking and get cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more.
Locked On Twins is back after our pistachio break, not our potassium break. That's different.
So I put on a shirt this morning, and I was getting my little man ready, and it was a red shirt, and he says, "Dad, what does it say on there?" And I said, "D's nuts." Begrudgingly, I didn't. It was one I got for Christmas. We do this thing at Christmas where we get funny shirts for each other. When we open it, we make a funny face, whatever. But it's a nutcracker, and it says D's nuts, and it's like printed all funny because it's probably from overseas. And it's, my wife wears it to bed. I just was trying to find something I could find to put on this morning. And so I threw that on, and he's like, "Dad, what does your shirt say?" And I'm like, "Oh boy." So now he's running around the house.
Time to have the talk about these nuts.
These nuts. Yeah, he's running around the house saying that. So my wife was none too pleased about that.
Well, you're in the doghouse for yet another reason. It's all right.
Yeah,
I wouldn't worry about it too much. I wanted to mention a couple things. Ryan Jeffers was named player of the game, I guess by Twins admin. I don't know who the nominating committee is. And I went, what? Because like the home run that he hit was against Will Wilson, the fake position player with a mustache.
Richie Incognito.
I mean, it counts. Yes, it was Will Wilson Incognito. It counts, I guess, but it's not like a real home run hit off an actual pitcher. But he did have a key hit in the first inning, and he made a Joe Mauer-esque dive at home plate on a foul ball. It was he seems like a good athlete, that Ryan Jeffers. But one thing about his RBI earlier in the game, Tommy Watkins sent France from first base, and France was out by a mile, or as they say in France, a kilometer. It was not anywhere close. Now, I like in general the Twins being aggressive on the bases, and we've had conversations before about the contact play. Some people hate it. Rocco loves it. So we know that the Twins are always kind of on the verge of trying to take that extra base, being very aggressive, or just throwing all caution to the wind, depending on how you want to define it. Should we have next time? Should we hold up Ty France at third base before he it seemed like he was coming from Alsace-Lorraine, but it was only first base, and it just took forever.
I haven't seen this bad of a send of France since Charles II of Navarre. No, I don't know if that even makes sense. It was horrible. I looked up bad France. I looked up bad France send, and that's what came up. And I honestly, like, the Statue of Liberty is not a bad thing, so I couldn't.
They've been talking about sending it back.
Well, I think you'd have to pay shipping though, and that might be kind of hard.
Boy.
No, I understood the send in the sense that, Mickey Gasper's due up. He's not been going great, but like that's still got to be a much closer play than that for that line of thinking to work for me. The make a play thing to me doesn't line up when it's as elementary as that was. It was A, B, C, and boom, he was out by possibly 2 kilos. It was a bad send. I understand being aggressive. I understand this, that, and the other thing, but for all the logic of who's on deck and all that, the play's got to be closer than that before you can apply any of those things. So bad send. I would say it was a bad send.
When we first had this season conversations about aggressive sends and contact play and all that, the Twins were in a little bit of a different place offensively. It seemed like they were just looking to make anything happen. And when they got a hit with runners in scoring position, well, if we can get 2 runs out of it instead of 1, we're going to try. And the Guardians have a little different personnel than we're used to on defense. Arias is playing second, and it's not Jimenez, one of the better defensive players in the league. But still, you think if the Guardians are going to compete this year, they're going to be able to make plays like that on defense. So I think, well after the fact here, I'm going to agree with you that Tommy should not have sent France on that play.
I think it's like having Correa out and Castro in at short. Like, still a capable player making that throw, but it's just not the same extent of wizardry.
Right. Yeah. If that's him, I think that might have been the thing, because we saw Arias make kind of not a half-hearted effort, but a play on a ball in the first inning that maybe Jimenez catches. And I think Watkins is thinking about that. Well, that's not Jimenez out at second base anymore. We can take advantage of this. And I think they maybe lulled him into
hopefully he realized it before that.
Yeah, right. Yes, but emphasize. Let's just say emphasize.
I know.
So coming back around eventually to the first point, Jeffers, player of the game, had a big hit in the first inning, had a home run later off a softball league guy, made the nice catch. But he's trying to get back to his 2023 numbers when he hit. This is Aaron Gleeman's favorite guy. I saw, before anybody else on the internet, I saw Aaron Gleeman touting Ryan Jeffers as the man. And it's kind of happened sometimes. Sometimes it hasn't happened. But 2 years ago, he had 276, 369, 490. That's great slash numbers. Last year, he kind of fell off a little bit. He started out so hot in the first month or so of the season, maybe 6 weeks. And then he had one more good month, but it wasn't kind of the same thing.
He couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat in Minnesota back in the second half of the season.
That's difficult to do in that state.
Yeah. He and Christian Vasquez were neck and neck.
Right. And that's some thick necks too. But Matthew Leach pointed out in the online story, Jeffers is currently showing career best marks in walk rate, which is great, strikeout rate, chase rate, so not chasing, and whiff rate, so not swinging and making contact. I want to be the best hitting catcher in baseball, he said. That's who I want to be, and I believe I can be. Now, I don't know if he can be that, but he can be top 3, something like that in hitters. And that is, that's a guy, Rocco has never really, sometimes to the Twins' detriment, he puts Jeffers up at, in the middle of the order, top of the order, maybe not first a lot, but up there. And he's a guy that he's always kind of believed in Jeffers. And the Twins, if he's going to be that part of the lineup, he's going to have to hit more like he did a couple years ago or that first month of the season, something like that. That's huge for the Twins. That's a huge thing that they kind of haven't had for several months in the lineup, months of the season this year and last. It's huge if Ryan Jeffers hits, because he's not necessarily the first guy you think of when you think of big boppers of the Twins, but he's an important piece.
Well, and you said top 3 hitting catcher across the board, like AL or MLB?
MLB.
So ahead of him among catchers in its primary position, not as a catcher, he is 9th in weighted runs created plus. Now, keep in mind, he's also slugging 392. If he's going to get where he's going, he's going to slug better than that. He's behind Carson Kelly, who's off to an incredible start and has only got 50.
That will slow down. He will slow down. Yes.
Sean Murphy, who will also slow down. Cal Raleigh, who might be my choice for number 1 or number 2 with this next guy, Will Smith. Jose Trevino, Logan O'Hoppe, Matt Thaiss, Dylan Dingler are all ahead of him. Actually, Dingler, Jeffers, and Keibert Ruiz are tied. There are really only two guys that I think I would for sure take ahead of him offensively, and that's Raleigh and Smith. And I mean, if those guys have a down year, Jeffers could definitely move up there. But I think third is a good spot for him to shoot for. And if he's shooting for first and ending up at third, that's a good spot to be.
Right. If he ends up at third, that means Tommy waved him all the way from first. So I don't know.
Second base coach sent him. Tommy stopped him.
Murphy and Raleigh, that's fine if they're 1-2. And Will Smith's a tough, he's a guy that has been very good. And I kind of think that we thought maybe would be even a little better. So if Jeffers is top 4, let's just say by the end of the year, it wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't surprise me, but it would be a nice turn of events for the Twins if he's 4th. So at that rate, we're going to take our second break. And when we do return, we will talk more about, we got to talk a little bit more about Bailey Ober and some hurt guys updates. Nick Paparesta stuck his head out and gave an update on some injured players.
Yeah, for my money, by the way, before we go in, it's Ober would have been player of the game, just to state that.
Yeah, really?
Yeah. But we got to give some love to FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are here. Unless you are the Miami Heat, then the NBA playoffs are gone. And FanDuel wants to give new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if that $5 bet hits. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether I pick for my favorite team or if I'm watching another game. The Wolves have been off a couple days. It's still intense action that's worth your time. The Warriors doing Warrior things. Hopefully the Wolves can move on, and who knows, maybe face them in the next round. But from three-pointers, steals, assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can combine your live prop bets into a same-game parlay and watch the winnings multiply. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. FanDuel.com or the FanDuel app.
Locked On Twins has returned for our final segment, and want to talk a little bit more about the opener of the Guardians series from Monday night. We didn't talk too much about Bailey Ober. Brandon mentioned that maybe he should have been player of the game. I do, when you score 11 runs and it's the Twins, I can see going with an offensive player or an offensive player. If you go with an offensive player, you don't want to deal with people that are offensive, but you do want to deal with people that are offensive. So there's a fine line there. And Bailey Ober was not letting the Twins be, or the Guardians be offensive in any way. I think the Twins had 5 or 6 runs before the Guardians were able to get on the board for one measly run. And he's done, I was looking up his stats. And of course he had the terrible first game in St. Louis because he's hit or miss in Missouri as a pitcher. 8 earned runs and 2 and 2/3 innings, but
2 and 2/3.
2 and 2/3. He started out with a 27 ERA, which is too much. That's too much ERA.
After many ERAs.
It's way too much errors. Taylor Swift. Second appearance down to 12-15. Third appearance 7-11. So he got himself a snack. Fourth appearance 6-16. Fifth appearance 504. Sixth appearance now after last night 7 2/3. Almost 102 pitches. So wow, he went over 100 pitches. It takes a lot to get Rocco to have somebody do that. Down to a 4.13 ERA. So he is making progress, Mr. Bailey Ober is. And I had a feeling that that's how the game would go. I wasn't sure exactly how. I didn't get right how the team would attack Gavin Williams. I thought they'd let him walk a few guys first, and they just jumped on him right away.
Well, they've been a hesitant offense this year to jump on mistakes. I mean, the meatball percentage and pitches down the zone, OPS, like right in the middle of the strike zone. Like there was reason to believe with data what you believed, and it just didn't happen that way. And but at the same time, I think something that gets kind of underrated is that most of their big bullpen guys have now had 2 days off. Coming into this series, the Guardians bullpen was beleaguered. It had been worked to the point where they sent back Joey Cantillo, who was pitching pretty well, to now they've used position players the last 2 days and are still not in great position with their bullpen. this has got to favor the Twins.
It was such a short start by Gavin Williams, and they had, Jake Junis come in, and he's one of those, off-speed guys that seems to give the Guardians trouble.
Twins?
So, what's that?
He gives the Twins trouble? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if he gave the Guardians trouble, they'd probably kick him off the team.
Well, and Sewald got hurt, right?
Right.
And that was another issue. Did you hear what Denard Span said? So he hinted at there being some gamesmanship to get a little extra throwing for the guy out in the bullpen, or at least to get him more time to get prepared. And I think it was Tim Herron. And so they come back from the break, and Denard goes, maybe this is too much information, but I went to the restroom and came back, and he still hadn't even been out to the mound yet. And I'm like, oh, Denard, we don't need to know you.
Well, I mean, he was trying to go with what Corey Provis was saying. Corey made it a point to, I don't want to say harp on, but he mentioned it a few times, how long it was taking for the Guardians to get their pitcher in the game. And it did. I mean, I wouldn't put it past the Guardians to do gamesmanship in that sense. It's
a very baseball thing. Like it would have not, nobody would have blinked an eye at it 30 years ago. It would have been for sure the scoundrels of baseball doing that kind of thing.
Right. So, I mean, but in my memory, I do remember other situations where there's been an injury and a pitcher is coming out of the blue. It happened not long ago in a game I was watching in Kansas City. And, the guy comes out to the mound and he warms up there. They don't really let him warm up in the bullpen. So I don't think it was that kind of situation, but it did seem like, I don't know if there's a written rule or even an unwritten rule about what the length of time is to get the guy in from the bullpen. But Corey Provis was very upset about it.
Well, and Ober sitting might have been the bigger issue than actually anything else.
Well, that's where the gamesmanship, where's the advantage in doing that if you're the Guardians? Well, that's where it is. The Guardians are already discombobulated with, not having their pitcher injured, having to bring in someone to warm up and out of the blue like that, and they're shorthanded already. So it wouldn't surprise me if Vogt was like, hey, if we're going to be inconvenienced by this, let's at least try and lessen the disadvantage a little bit by putting some of it on Ober for having to wait around. So,
well, and Ober having to sit down is like McCusker fielding grounders. It's a long way down.
It is a long way down. It's funny. Gavin Williams is only like 3 inches shorter than Ober, but it seems like that's a long 3 inches when you're tacking on there. When you go much higher, maybe it's even in French. If I don't know what Thai France would say how long 3 inches is, but
we're getting way off.
3 yards? Is it? No, it's not. Anyway, did we take our last break yet? We did.
Yeah, we did. We sure did.
All right. Luke Keyshaw. He's out a couple of months. We kind of thought it would be 6 to 8 weeks. And 8 weeks, I want to break this to you, Brandon. It's a couple of months. So it isn't that big of a deal. I'm sure some people were feeling like they've been misled by the Twins. Like, why did they say? They said it was going to be 6 to 8 weeks, and now they're saying it's 2 months. So, that's the same amount of time.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. But Nick Paparesta, like I said, came out and saw his shadow and saw Keyshaw's x-rays and said,
no surgery.
Any games, no surgery. We kind of knew that anyway. They already knew it was non-displaced. So, which is funny because I think Wilson Contreras had surgery last year. I mean, it's not the same thing. Wilson Contreras got hit with a bat. So it isn't, I guess, the same thing as getting hit with a ball. But he was back in like 7 weeks. And I remember he was like doing rehab assignments and stuff. It was like a month or 5 weeks, and he was playing baseball again. And I'm like, what are the Cardinals doing? Are the Cardinals making yet another kind of weird mistake with their? And he turned out to be fine. So
what does this do for?
Yeah.
Well, what does this do for his elbow? Because now he's going to have more time to rest his elbow. But if he needed to throw, is that a setback for his elbow too? Like, how do you see that?
That's a great question that I can't answer. I'm thinking like, oh, that'd be a good question to ask an athletic trainer.
But that's why I like being in the game at the games in person to ask those questions.
That's true. That would be a great question to ask. He probably said like, it doesn't matter, but I don't know. Luke Keyshaw's elbow, I think it's going to be just one of those things where like all of a sudden it's better. Like it's going to happen overnight. There's like a UCL fairy that comes and spreads a little dust on it. And it goes from whatever that is that he calls a throw to first base to, oh, he can do it again. So I think it's just going to be one of those situations. But
or he'll play first base when he comes back if Ty France still has a 670 whatever 7-something OPS.
Don't this Ty France got a hit last night? He's been fine. He was just a player of the week 2 weeks ago.
No, I know. I'm just saying that there's options. Like there's options here. If he comes back and they're rolling, or if someone's not, he can move around.
Jonah Bride has been contributing.
Yep.
I've been that kind of came out of nowhere, but I heard something about he made a hand adjustment on his swing that was in the works, like at the end in Miami, and they're
Bobby.
like, whatever, just don't worry about it. We're going to cut you. The Marlins gave up on him. I can't believe the Marlins made the wrong move. It's very unlike them. But it looks like he could be new Miranda or something. He looks like he could be a contributor. That's some found money. But I don't know if that means Cody Clemens will never get in a game or what. But
he got a hit. Hey, he got to hit yesterday against Willie Wilson. But yeah, I don't know if we're ever going to see him. I look at the lineups every day, and for the longest time, Bride was nowhere to be seen, and now you don't even know that Clemens is on the team.
Bride was leaving the Twins stranded at the altar, but then he showed up at the last second.
Jilted.
Jilted. Right, there's a couple other guys. Matt Wallner. Now they're calling it moderate to severe. I think they snuck in the severe possibility on the left hamstring. So he's just started running on a treadmill, jogging. So he's going to be. It's going to be a while. That's going to be probably going to be longer than Royce if it's severe, because they did not use the word severe with Royce. It was all moderate on the left hamstring. So he's going to need to advance to running in a straight line, because they do that in baseball, and then go to base running where they turn a corner before playing in a minor league rehabilitation game. So we are just, put your Matt Wallner questions away for a while.
Probably a month.
Yeah, I would at least.
Yeah.
Royce Lewis, he's going to play 9 innings as a DH today, supposedly, with St. Paul.
I think
full
10.
game at third base on Wednesday. Going to play 10 innings?
I think he's playing parts of a doubleheader.
Oh, is that right? Well,
I think that's what I saw.
What I have in this note. So, well, he's got to play 2 games in the field, complete games, before they bring him back. So we're looking at maybe another week, maybe not quite that long for Royce, but he's getting there.
I thought Boston, people seem to think it's the homestand, which is fine. That's good too.
More than a feeling. All right. That's going to do it. Willie Castro, he's getting close too. We want to thank you for making Locked On Twins your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. And it just takes forever, baseball season. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts, such as this one. For Brandon Warren, this is Dave Brown by the side of the road, wishing you all a very pleasant good evening, saying we will Alexei Casilla tomorrow night. 11-1 again.